back, guys. First, I want to start out with a big special shout out to Formula One Armchair Experts. I was on their Facebook page while we're all like a watch party on Facebook. It was my first time I've ever participated in one of those. Met some great people on there besides Anthony Durko, showing us some great videos since he was at the track, what he saw on track, and I was responding with what I was seeing on live stream. And yeah, it was a great experience. So you guys, shortly we're going to start out with a roundup of practice 1. Before I even talk about practice, first I want to point out coverage. All right, NBCSN decided not to televise the practice 1 on TV, so they decided to live stream it on their website, which is fine, which is great. But the first link that they had actually did not work. It was just all black screen. It was still trying to initialize, still uploading, and it just didn't work. And then eventually they had like their live stream, their live Twitter feed, along with Mercedes AMG Twitter feed on the left here, and that was updating every 2 seconds. And they gave me a new link. It worked, but there was no commentary whatsoever. And so that's the reason why I had to go into that Facebook group, because I needed some help, and they eventually realized I wasn't getting any commentary, and I had more fun without it anyway. But I just had to figure out what was going on from the guys at the track, from what I was seeing on TV, and discussing it with other people in the group. So it was actually kind of a cool experience, kind of frustrating though. And but yeah, old news. Let's go over practice 1 review. All right, practice 1. Practice 1 saw Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas going at it in the very beginning of the session and putting in the fastest lap that they possibly could. I think they popped in, both of them, like a 125 something in the very beginning. It was it was 3 seconds faster than the previous practice 1 times from last year, by like a good 3 seconds. So it was these cars are definitely a lot faster than normal. Sorry if any of this information you already know. I'm sure you guys already seen it on another publication. I'm just going over it now like it never happened. All right. So anyway, the practice results at the end of the day were both Mercedes on top and both Red Bulls in that bottom 2, just under those guys, and the 2 Ferraris just under him. And then obviously Massa and P7 and Grosjean P8. Some driver incidents. There's only one for full practice session 1, and that was Daniel Ricciardo. He had a little moment where he went off the track a little bit on turn 1. You'll notice it was a common theme in the second practice, but it wasn't anything too drastic. I think they were all trying to push the car slightly near the end of the session, because that's where it kind of happened. And yeah, it wasn't really too big a deal. Notice another observation from practice, that there's going to be 3 types of shark fins, and overall 3 different styles of T-wings for the season. You got the Mercedes style, which looks like I called it before. I called it the dolphin tail wing. Looks kind of or a whale tail. Kind of looks like a whale coming out. That's set just behind the shark fin. And then you have and Red Bull had their own style T-wing that was kind of similar to Mercedes, and they didn't really put it on until, the Ferrari had the most advanced version of their wing, and it's like an attachment onto their shark fin, and it overhangs their rear wing, or just before it. And I'm pretty sure that helps channel air around the shark fin to generate more downforce overall for the rear end. It worked out very well for them. You also had Force India didn't have like a Williams had a similar setup. It didn't look like the Ferrari one, but it was a similar setup to the Ferrari attachment wing to the shark fin. Seemed to work out just fine for Felipe Massa, not so much for Lance Stroll coming P13. And then you also had, Haas had a really rudimentary version of the Ferrari attachment on their rear wing, and it was so flimsy that like you guys ever seen a dog tail when he's happy? That's basically what it was when he was driving. It was like flapping in the wind like a freaking dog tail. Like it looked like it was ready to break off at any moment. I don't know if we also may have had brake issues throughout the entire practice session, because it seems like Romain Grosjean was complaining a lot, at least in practice 2, about his brakes, but we actually it was so bad, the flapping was so bad that we were actually told to take him out, take off the attachments for practice session 2. But yeah, practice session 1 is, is basically just get everyone's feet wet and see if their car can handle can go around the track, and it can. It definitely was fast, set a quick pace. Obviously, it's not going to be the final pace. By the time we see qualifying, we'll start seeing the fastest paces, like practice 3, end of practice 2, which we'll cover shortly. Some honorable mentions: the Toro Rosso, also running like a Mercedes type dolphin wing, T-wing at the end. Force India and Renault and Sauber all didn't even have a wing whatsoever on it. And also McLaren Honda also did not have a wing on their car. But Fernando Alonso was able to take a couple laps, and he had the most laps out of his team at McLaren. And he actually put in a pretty respectable 127.1 for the session. His teammate Van Dorn couldn't really get out of it. He only put in a couple laps. He had some engine issues before the session even started, so it hindered his practice session for the season, for the Australian Grand Prix. And then Jolyon Palmer couldn't get out much either. Jolyon Palmer only put in 6 laps in FP1, so and then eventually I'll talk about FP2, but he didn't go very far in FP2 either. But yeah, only 6 laps in FP1, and so Palmer, and they had a kind of difficult testing as well, so hasn't put in a whole lot of time in that car. So we'll see if Renault picked the correct guy to stay with their team. But I'm happy with Kevin Madison, even though he had a disappointing practice session. But he's my guy, so hopefully he improves for practice session 3 and qualifying. But yeah, what do you guys think of practice session 1? I'm sure a lot of people could have got their better pace, but obviously I'm thinking they're just trying to figure out their car setup and everything for that. So that's just why we saw faster times in practice session 2, which I'm about to cover. See you guys shortly.